I have cancelled my Netflix subscription, and in this video I'm going to try and convince you to join me and do the same thing. And the reason is relatively straightforward. Netflix have been pushing extreme liberal propaganda for quite some time now. We all saw it when Adolescence came out, but we didn't do anything about it. Well, now we've got the opportunity. Let's get into it. This whole thing started a few days ago when Elon Musk declared that he had cancelled his Netflix subscription. Why? Well, because Netflix, in their children's only programs, were heavily pushing LGBT themes. Let me show you.
How you break out those moves
for your two biggest fans.
I know I'm safe when I'm with my friends or other non-binary people.
Non-binary?
People who aren't female or male. Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have assumed.
Nightshades pronouns are they, them.
He or she just doesn't fit who I am.
My apologies. Please switch therapies.
This is Cherry Chef reporting from the wedding of the year. Everyone's favorite karate instructor, Sensei Dave, will be marrying mixed martial arts champion Jiu-Jitsu Joe.
He's the undisputed champion of my heart.
Everything okay, Fred?
Oh, the last time I saw my grandma, I used a different name and pronouns.
I want to say this right from the outset. I've got no problem whatsoever with the LGBT community. And yes, that includes the T. I do believe that gender dysphoria is a very real thing. It's a psychological condition, and I suspect that it's very difficult to live with. Yet at the same time, I believe that children, especially children who may have other issues going on, are very vulnerable to confusing concepts. And they can quite easily and quite quickly substitute whatever is going on in their life with a pseudo-gender dysphoria. And the reason I believe that is if you look at the historical chart of how much gender dysphoria is prevalent in society, it's usually about 0.5%. But in the last decade, that's been increasing rapidly. Why? Are all of those cases real? I suspect not. And I believe that a part of the problem comes from this. When society celebrates something, whether that's being an astronaut or a doctor or a lawyer or a soldier, people want to become that thing. Except we stopped celebrating those things and we started celebrating identity politics and what you are and who you sleep with and what gender you identify as. Once you start celebrating those things, well, a lot of people will want to become those things, even though they actually are not. I'd also make a broader point here, because I think that any ethical or societal issue which is being hotly contested by adults shouldn't really be pushed onto children as though it's a completely settled matter. In fact, I suspect a lot of adults who have children that use Netflix and look at the Netflix targeted towards children programs would be really surprised to see some of that content in there. And in fact, they probably wouldn't be too happy about it. And I'm sure that the creators of these programs see themselves as extremely noble and progressing some kind of social values, but I disagree. So the thing that I'm going to do to protest is simply stop paying your company. Seems kind of reasonable, right? I actually have more beef with Netflix because after the appalling murder of Charlie Kirk, one of their producers, a guy called Hamish Steele, was seen celebrating and calling Charlie a Nazi. Well, Hamish Steele produces a show called Dead End, which is targeted at 7-year-olds, and yes, you'll be surprised to hear that it features trans themes. Of course it does. And in fact, this whole thing really backfired for Hamish because had he not made that post, people probably wouldn't have paid that much attention to what was in his program for children. But because he did, they looked and they were horrified. So yeah, one last thing when it comes to Netflix. Adolescence. Adolescence released maybe a year ago now, I guess, and the whole show, for those who haven't seen it or heard about it, which if you live in Britain is kind of unlikely, but the whole show is about a young white kid who goes out and kills someone with a knife. And this is despite the fact that the vast majority of knife crime in this country is not committed by young white boys. But that's how Netflix chose to frame the knife crime problem here in this country. And let's take a look at how politicians reacted to this drama.
It wasn't the outside influence, it was the influence on social media amongst friends that was the biggest influence. It wasn't a named influencer, for example.
No, there were lots of things that make up Jamie's complicated brain, and there's lots of things, you know, if I was to describe to you what Jamie's brain looked like, it would take me 9 years to describe it, because he's a complicated mess of things, as we all are. And so all these things play a role in his head.
They literally held an inquiry into a fictional drama that bears no resemblance to reality. In fact, it was made mandatory watching in schools up and down the country, and the Prime Minister even referred to it as a documentary.
Our children, I've got a 16-year-old boy and a 14-year-old girl, and it's a very, very good documentary to watch.
Again, fictional drama bearing no resemblance whatsoever to reality in England. And I know what you're thinking, you can't blame Netflix for the Prime Minister's reaction to a Netflix show, and sure, I accept that. I just want to take a dig at Keir Starmer. But here's what I can blame Netflix for. I can blame them for not covering the real blights in our society. They could have chosen to make a drama or a documentary about the grooming gangs, or about the people who are really committing knife crime in London, but they chose not to. They chose to ignore the true blights of our society and instead villainise young English boys. Well, unfortunately, I find that completely unacceptable, and so you won't be getting £25 a month from me in the future. And I think that's reasonable. You're just wondering if I'm going to talk to a camera everywhere now, aren't you? Not everywhere. So that is why I've cancelled my Netflix subscription. And look, I know a lot of you probably like Netflix and you don't want to do that. But all I would say to you is this. If you find some of those issues and topics controversial, then I think you should make a stand, because you shouldn't accept that those kinds of things are being pushed as if they are completely settled and ordinary matters towards very young people. You see, I don't think that's acceptable. Even if you are generally quite liberal, but you think that there is a discussion that needs to be had here, well, it doesn't need to be had towards 7-year-olds, right? As if it's completely ordinary, totally settled matter, all adults agree, this is fact. I think that's irresponsible. So it's up to you what you do. And I know some people are going to try and make this out as if this is a free speech issue, but it's simply not. I'm not saying that the writers should go to prison or that they should be arrested or anything like that. I'm simply saying I'm not going to give my money to Netflix. That's it. It's not a free speech issue. They can keep making these programs if they want. I'm just not going to pay and subsidize them whilst they do so. So no, this isn't a free speech thing, and no, I wouldn't want to see them arrested. That's pretty much it. Look, I know I'm indoors again, and some of you are probably getting kind of bored of seeing me indoors, although this is only the second video and I've got about 150 of me outdoors. But it's still really windy, and as good as this microphone is, when it's like 30km/h winds, all you can end up hearing is the wind noise, so it's just no fun. So I either make a video indoors or I don't make a video at all. But hopefully the next video will be outdoors. Anyway, I'm doing the thing I always do at the end of videos where I just ramble, so I'm going to save you all some time and some sanity, and I'll see you in a future video. Please do leave a like, comment, subscribe, and hype. You don't have to. You do whatever you want to do. Thanks for watching. Till the next one.